welcome everybody to Human Happy Hour. And today we are joined by Melissa Denizard. I'm going to be doing the interview today. Jason is a little bit under the weather, so he is going to be engineering. He's here, but not here. So I'm going to be taking on this interview. Really excited to talk to Melissa. And so Melissa Denizard is a singer, a pop star who recently debuted her single Dirty Girl. She's an organizer, political educator, writer, and the founder of Dirty Girl. It is the #1 party protest experience in the world. And through Dirty Girl, Melissa is building a socio-political movement committed to the liberation of Black girls, women, and femmes. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, Melissa.
Hi.
So welcome. And everybody, please like, subscribe, hit that like button, share. So let's talk about your new single, Dirty Girl. What's the connection there between the single and then the movement that you founded?
Yeah, so I think Dirty Girl has really been like having a baby, like it's a 9-month process and there's like stages. And I think that I came up with Dirty Girl. I came up with a song idea. Like it was literally, it came to me and I just started like, I just kind of kept it as a keepsake. I was like, I kind of like this, but I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. But then as I was working on it, I realized that I wasn't just writing about like a fictional far away thing. Like, I think I realized that what I was writing about had potential to be what I've been like sitting on and mulling over. Like I call Dirty Girl my 10-year thesis, because in a lot of ways, like it's so connected to my emergence as a youth activist and my time and doing movement work. And so I realized that Dirty Girl, it had so much more potential to be more than a song. It was not only a song, it was an identity marker. It was not only an identity marker, it was a way to connect with people. It was not only a way to connect with people, but it could also be the potential to actually like change some shit and change the world. But so the song is kind of like our anthem. It's the song that you like get ready to like fuck some shit up to, like that's the song. And it perfectly encapsulates also like what a dirty girl is and what a dirty girl is not, and why everything feels so urgent right now, and what exactly we're fighting against. So that's Dirty Girl.
I love that, having an anthem for like taking action. So when you're thinking about that, like what are you kind of referring to? Everything's such a mess right now. So can you, for people that are listening or might not be familiar, what are you kind of unpacking? What are you looking at right now in terms of giving people that anthem?
So something I say all the time, and it always sounds so radical, but it's what I really believe. Like I wholeheartedly believe that right now there is a war being waged upon girls, women, and femmes across the world. And you can see that in the laws that we've been seeing being rolled back. I think we're seeing that not only in seeing laws being rolled back, but also seeing the laws that are being introduced at this stage, and where we're at in human society. Like we have all these articles that tell us about all this new tech that's being created. And it feels so doomsday that, like, for example, we now have scientists that are working on how can I actually, for example, incubate a baby in a woman's womb or in a person's womb that is no longer alive. Like that's on life support.
I saw that article.
Like exploring that, but yeah, we can't have rights to our bodies. That's crazy. Like to me, it just doesn't make sense, and it feels very dystopian. And I feel as though it's like, I think we're at a point with feminism where everything feels very sectioned off. It's like the Black girls are doing this and the Asian girls are doing that, and the white women, we don't even want to do anything, have anything to do with them. Like, I don't know what they're up to, and I don't care. Like, that's the vibe. And what I'm getting at with Dirty Girl is actually, yes, we are all individuals. We all are different, but we're all being impacted by this war in the same way. Like, when you really boil it down, like, the results are all going to be the same. So for me, this is really a response to, okay, I've experienced movement spaces, I've experienced the modern feminist movement, and I'm completely disenchanted by it. So how do I create something new, something fresh, something alluring that's going to engage this new generation and really like rile us up around like, things are getting really bad and we need to do something about it and fast. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's it. Then it led me down more for more questions. Thing. But yeah, I think like to your point, a lot of these movements that you mentioned that you're getting, disenchanted by it, because I think a lot of them get co-opted by corporate entities, and that has its own issue there. But I think you're spot on with the women and femmes and everybody. The outcome is going to be the same. We're all going to have the same oppression ultimately if you don't push back with these things. And so intersectionality is really important, but you also have to have solidarity across that in order to accomplish things, because we need numbers in any cause. Jason and I have both been in the activism world a little bit. That's kind of where we met. So we were doing the whole big money out of politics thing, which is another problem. But yeah, the more I think about it, I just, what you said is spot on. Everybody's doing their little thing in kind of pockets based on their identity, and identity is really important, but it's like, we got to come together in this one thing where there's crossover, because that's where we have to push. So I love that you've kind of created an anthem for that.
And it's not to say that, for example, there isn't nuances in that, right? It's not to say like, yeah, let's all come together and let's ignore like our individuality and our differences. It's really more so like, if we come together, let's come together under the basis of, in any point, any situation, we're always going to center the most marginalized. Like, whoever the most marginalized person is, like, that is the ideology we have to walk forward with if we want to see real, radical, transformative change. And it was really crucial for me when I was designing Dirty Girl to clearly state that, and to also like echo the Black feminist theology that I've been brought on and that I've organized like upon. Like, for me, like I think when I launched Dirty Girl, I was very clear. I was like, this is the socio-political movement committed to the liberation of Black girls, women, and femmes. And some people saw that and they were like, oh, so I can't come to the rally? Like, what are you talking about? But I'm like, no, like, you can come to the rally, but just know when you come to the rally, Black girls hit the car first. That's all it means. Like, and I think we've gotten to a point with, I would say, representational politics, where we think that if someone doesn't share the exact same niche identity as we do, then there's no point of connection. There's no point of like relationship building. But it's like, no, there is, but like, you actually have to be open to being a human being with that person, like fully experiencing the full breadth of human emotion with that person. And I think we see each other as like, what do you check on this box, rather than who are you actually? What are your values like? And how do I actually feel when I'm with you and when I'm around you, when I'm vibing with you? So yeah, that's what Dirty Girl is. We're a vibe. And you got to catch the vibe.
I love that. And I think that's challenging for a lot of people, because like you said, a lot of people are just used to checking boxes, and we've lost a lot of that real ability to connect as people, because like you said, even if you check a different box identity wise, that doesn't mean that you maybe have some kind of experience that the two of you can empathize or can can connect on otherwise, even if you
also
don't.
might have a good heart. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like I feel like that's really what matters. Like, because no, when I was first coming up in movement spaces, I was like, I don't know if I can vibe with white people. And I like that was really the ideology I had, and that a lot of other organizers I had or I was organizing with had. Like, it was just very much like, no, like, but that was so limiting because it was like I've really been reflecting on this. And there was a period of time from like 2014 to like 2021 where like you could be in an organizing space and a white person could be there like with a good heart, like really wanting to organize with you. And the language that was being used is very alienating, like, and I don't know, like at the time, like I think it felt valid because I think that was really the first racial reckoning we really had in this country of like, we've actually been colonized and we're dealing under white supremacy and it's deeply impacting me. I think that was the first time we ever got to say that. But I think what got lost in between the lines was like, okay, but like, yeah, she's white, but she still has feelings. The more we alienate these people that actually do want to show up and may have good hearts and good intentions, like sooner or later, you are going to push them away. And you have the right that has an entire apparatus that is set up to engage people that are apathetic, angry, and alienated. And so, like, what does that do to our movement spaces when, like you said, strength is in numbers? What do you do? What do we do to our movement spaces when we're actively pushing away people who have good hearts and actually want to be a part of the movement itself? So I don't know why I started talking about that, but yeah, that's how I feel.
It's such an interesting point though, because yeah, you're right. There are there are white people that just might have good intentions, but you're still not being respectful and not, and maybe not intentionally, but you can see where somebody doesn't want to put in the work or the emotional labor to have to teach somebody that even though good, well-intentioned, they're tripping over themselves to and still saying the wrong thing and still, not really listening, hearing and being present. So I can see where it's really challenging. So, but it sounds like you worked through, like you somehow have gotten to a different space with it. Can you kind of unpack that?
Yeah, it is challenging. And I don't say that to be like, oh, like everybody was wrong, like whatever. It absolutely is challenging to, for the first time in your life, be coming to like realizing just how deeply white supremacy has impacted you, and for me to expect you to be nice. It's absolutely challenging. But I think everybody has their own role to play, right? Like I often hear a lot of like white people, or like when I was in college, I had some white friends that would be like, yeah, like my relative, like he fucks with Trump. So I don't even talk to him. Like he's excommunicated from the family. But I'm like, girl, you're the best person to talk to him. Like, I'm not gonna talk to him. Like, you don't even want to talk to him. So like, girl, like, who's to work? And I think that's what I'm getting at, is just like everybody has their own role to play. So this white person over here, or even like, let's say this black cis het man might be over here, and he may have a good heart, but he may not say the right things. Like he may actually trigger me, but I'm not the person to talk to him. Maybe like my best friend who's a cis gay man, that maybe that's his job to do that work. But I feel like everything has got, I don't know, everything has kind of got packaged, and it became like everybody got the same package no matter what. And it wasn't like, let me actually build with you. Like, let me actually meet you on the street and talk to you and like figure out like, who are you? What's the vibe? Like I was out this weekend. I went to this after hours party, and a lot of the people there were people that had experienced our first Dirty Girl rally in Houston. And I see this guy, he was there, and he starts freaking out. He's like, Melly, oh my God, like, hey, like, how are you? And he's like, I feel like I'm meeting Beyonce right now. I'm like, whoa, like, chill. But he was so excited because he was like, yo, like, you taught me about pronouns. Like, you showed me
Oh.
all of this. Like, you showed me like people who are like different sexualities, people who are alternative and just vibing and experiencing life just like I am. And he was like, thank you. Like, that really changed my life, because like from then on, he was introduced to this community that kind of welcomed him, and he found community. But like, if I didn't take the time to build with him and to introduce him into this world, right, he probably would have just continued like being ignorant, and also not knowing that he could actually build with these people too. And I think that's what I'm getting at, is just like, if he didn't know about pronouns, it may not have been a non-binary person's job to talk to him and to do that work. But I can, because I don't have the same triggers as you. And I can probably withstand someone getting things wrong the first time, or the first couple times. But that's what I'm getting at. It's just like, like, these are people, all individual people, and they all have different capacities to feel and to experience and to learn and to vibe and to also contribute. So like, why not? Like, why not engage with this average person? Why not see their potential to be a part of something? I think that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Which is another excellent point, because I think you're seeing more and more as people get segmented. And I think that all of these algorithms and the internet are responsible for that, but they're not talking to people that they disagree with. And yeah, to your point, that white relative that is, oh, I believe in Trump and this and that and the other. It's like, well, if you don't try to engage with them and try to like explain some other things, then you're right, who will?
Yeah. Right. Actually, they will. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then everybody goes further and further into whatever rabbit hole you're in that might not be a good one and might not end well. So yeah. So what do you feel like the role of social media, and because a lot of what you seem to be talking about, organizing, which probably happens like on a face-to-face basis more effectively. So how do you kind of navigate where we are with social media and all of that stuff?
Okay, so before I say what I have to say, I do want to just preface that this opinion is coming from somebody who just quit their job. I was working for a social media company that was trying to make the internet a better place. So that is my perspective. So I feel very differently now about social media than I did like maybe a year ago. I'm at a point now where I'm like, social media has its place. So let it play its role. Okay. Stop trying to make it more than what it is. Like, stop trying to make it less than what it is. Like, because there are some people that they hate social media, but they'll be like, oh, it's not even that popping. Like, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. But it's like, it's literally integrated into everything I do. Like, people literally go from zero to like millions of dollars in their account because of social media. Like, it's not small. But then there are some people that will be like, no, but like, we got to make social media like more caring. Like, we got to really like find homes on this. And it's like, that's not what it's for, because when you scroll, you're getting ad. Like, it's clearly not meant for that. So let it be what it is. I think social media is a great distribution tool. I think it's the thing that we should be using to spread our message out, as to scale our message. But it's not what we should be using to build the foundation of our message. Because you're not going to get the same reaction from somebody that you could when you actually meet them. You're not going to be able to read a person as well as you would if you were in person with them. And like, I can say that as someone who like, I have been a part of many parasocial relationships that I did not ask to be in, because people really like my personality online. So like, they start to think that's my bestie. And it's like, I'm not your bestie. I'm just the girl online. Like, that's all I am. But I think because people spend so much time on social media, and I think too, there's been so much like trying to like kind of understand this thing that feels foreign but also feels exciting. Like it almost feels I feel like this is probably how people felt with Manifest Destiny. Like they probably were like, oh my God, like there's a new frontier out there. I don't know what's out there, but it's interesting and I can probably get really rich off of it. But they did a lot of fucked up things too as they were trying to get out west. And I think that's what's happening with social media is the internet is a new frontier. Like, and the same systems of domination that we've been repeating in the outside world, we're doing on this app, or on these apps, excuse me. But I think that overall, it's our job to understand that like this is its own world. And yes, you can disconnect from it. But when you do disconnect from it, it has to be with the purpose of connecting with something else. And for me, I'm connecting with people. Like I'm actually talking to people outside of my phone. And I learn a lot. Like I say I'm always doing field research. Like I'm always just, what's the vibe? Like what are people doing out here? And I really do learn a lot because, it really helps me go from the theoretical framework to actually seeing how this is playing out in real life. And also to understand that things are not as rigid as I think they are. Like there's a lot of fluidity, a lot of nuance that like cannot fit into these cookie cutter boxes and identity markers. Like I really have to push forward to really be a better person sometimes. I'm like, damn, like this is weird. But that person also has a good heart. So like, what do I do about that? Like, do I just discard them? Or do I continue, feeling the vibe and seeing where it goes? So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm a little hippy dippy with it, but that's how I feel.
So I know there are a lot of like young people looking to I just saw a piece earlier today where people are like, it's so destructive, like to teenage girls, and the algorithms are sending them down these rabbit holes. So how do you recommend for young people that have been like, that have just come up in this atmosphere, how do they engage on a personal level? Like, what are some of the things that you do like face to face?
I think it really is like our jobs to like how make our family stronger for real. Like, I don't know, because I feel like, why is your daughter going on social media trying to like build up her self-esteem? Why are you not building her self-esteem? Like, why are you not telling her she's beautiful every day? Like, why she gotta find that on social media? I don't know. Like, I just feel like for me, this when the year started, I went on a eat, pray, love journey. That's what I'm calling it. Well, I was literally traveling. I was in Puerto Rico and St. Thomas, so the Caribbean. And the first, 2 weeks I spent out there, I was living in a tent on a farm. And I felt deeply uncomfortable because I didn't have my phone, or I did have my phone, but I wasn't really using it that much. And all I really had was myself. Like I didn't have like a lot of hair. Like I took my nails off. Like I was bare. Like I was just me. And I did that on purpose because I really wanted to like learn who I am without all of that extra stuff. And once I like really pushed past the discomfort, I was able to actually sit with myself and like realize that even without this and the validation I get from this, like I'm still gonna be okay. And I think the issue is like we don't have a lot of rituals in our lives that communicate that the real world is just as exciting as the virtual world. Like I don't know, like I'm on my TikTok For You page. I have a lot of content of like seeing families like love their children really well. And sometimes I comment on the post. I'm just like, I love when parents actually like their kids because that is such a rare experience. It doesn't happen as much as I would like for it to happen. And it's really nice. I think it's really healing to my inner child to see like, wow, like this really is possible. Like you can really like enjoy life with your kid and like treat them as a fully fledged human being with their own choices and stuff like that. So I think it's like I don't want to ask teenage girls to cope by continuing to find validation on their phones. Like, but I also can't blame teenage girls for doing that. What I would say is I would say to parents and to the grown-ups in their lives, why are you not providing an experience outside of the phone that is just as alluring as the phone? Why are you not providing that experience that can communicate to your child? Like, yes, like you are loved, you are complete, and you don't need to find this validation anywhere else but yourself. So I think that's for us to consider, not for them to think about. Like they're already depressed and anxious. They got a lot of things to worry about. Yeah.
That's a really, really valid point. Yeah. So can we kind of take it a few steps back for people that maybe this is their first touch point with you, and like, how did you get into activism? And can you kind of talk about that a bit in your journey?
Activism. Yeah. So the way I got into activism is I had a fundraiser for the Malala Fund. Shout out to Malala, you Southside. She was like, I think my first example of seeing like a young person be an activist. But at the time, I didn't really know what an activist was. I just felt very pulled to an issue. And at the time, I had read this article about Boko Haram and this hashtag called Bring Back Our Girls. And it was a campaign to bring back over 200 Nigerian schoolgirls that were kidnapped by Boko Haram. And I felt really called by it. So I wrote a letter to my principal and I was like, hey girl, like, I think we should do something about this. Like, it's kind of wild. Like, and she was like, okay, because I was in school, I was the goody two shoes. Like, I was a very straight and narrow kid. And so whatever Melissa wanted to do, they're like, go ahead, because they knew I wasn't gonna do nothing bad. Like, I was a stand-up kid for real. So I hit up my principal and I was like, yeah, I want to do something. And she was like, okay. So she let me take off an entire day of class to fundraise, like to sit outside the cafeteria and talk to people directly about feminism and global women's rights. And it was really cool. And what was even cooler is my friend, one of my closest friends at the time, her name is Cappy. She helped me put up this wall. We put up like, it was like an equality wall. So it spelled out equality in Post-it notes. And throughout the day, people could pick up a Post-it note and write what equality meant to them. And that was our way of engaging them as like throughout the day of the fundraiser. And I think I ended up raising like over $200, which seems small, but at the time, like that was crazy. Like that was like lit because you got to understand, I went to a very apathetic school. So to get people to actually give me money for this thing that was happening in Africa, like they were like, whoa, like who's this girl and what is she talking about? And then from there, like I just kept on like doing different things in my community. And I think what was really special about the time too was this was the time that Twitter was really becoming more popular and social media activism was also becoming more popular. So people were on Twitter kind of just like writing entire theoretical frameworks. And so that's also how I came into my political education. I would just follow all these scholars and all these theorists on Twitter and then just read up on Blackness and the Black radical tradition and Baldwin and Toni Morris and all these people. And then by the time I was 18, I was kind of like, I got this. So that's how I came into activism. I think I came through it by caring. And then I just found out I was good at it and I just kept on going.
Yeah, which is a great way to, so you found you came across an issue that spoke to you and then you kind of built from there. It sounds like, and grew and then found other things. And so, maybe. How did
you come into movement work? You said you were working big money in politics.
Yeah, so I've had an interesting journey. It's kind of gone 360, I think, but I'll tell you if you're interested. So I'll tell the quick version. So I was living in DC and in a low income, predominantly Black neighborhood that had a lot of Black. I was on East Street, Northeast DC. Okay. So, and it was the story goes, at least for people in the neighborhood, that it had at times been one of the most violent blocks, in the country. So it was sort of being gentrified, but it was very rough for the people there. And I was there because I got a job in DC, and that was where I could afford to live. So that's where I was living. But I ended up bonding deeply with the neighborhood and meeting a lot of wonderful people. And so I would do things like grow a garden there and, have events for the community. And, and the more and more you dig into the problems, of course, the more and more you're like, well, everything is like corruption. And, and obviously the white supremacy piece of it, but you look at like, well, why can't you get funding? Why can't you get that? Why can't people get the help that they need and deserve? And so then I came across the money in politics thing, and so it's like, you're doing all these things in the neighborhood, but what about the big picture and the big, like, what about getting these, the right legislation to help people? Because sure, I can feel like, yeah, you can grow a garden and I can have events and I can give kids clothes and things like that, but it just felt like it wasn't big enough. And so then I found an organization that was fighting to get big money out of politics. And I thought, aha, we can get the corruption out, right? Then maybe we can get all of these other things taken care. We can get legislators that actually create laws that help people and legislate greed and, all of that sort of thing. But, but organizations have their challenges. So, there were definitely some challenges there. And then I kind of eventually swung back to, I think these local, hyper local things and connecting with people in your neighborhood, I think that is really important. And there is so much value to that. I'm in Los Angeles now. And so now I'm like going to city council meetings and, so now I've gone.
And that's usually the best place to be at, is the city council meetings, the board meetings. Those are the rooms where it happens. Yeah.
So now we've kind of gone, but it's funny because I went from like, being super local, doing neighborhood stuff, trying to do the bigger stuff, and then going, maybe we need to do the local. But
because I feel like when you are an activist, you start off so pure. Like you start off like, some people even call it naivete. Like you start off just like realizing something's wrong, then you start asking more questions, and like you really start to deeply care about this issue. Like it sometimes it can even consume your everyday life. Like you can't look at something anymore without seeing the issue. But then like you start organizing around it, and then everybody starts focusing on numbers. Like, okay, well, how many people showed up? How many people signed up? How many people went from thinking this way and then thought this way? But the thing about, I think, activism is a lot of it is like, you can't quantify it. Like I can't quantify how I made that person feel, or the seed that I planted that might grow like a decade later. But it's great that I was even able to connect with this person. But I think for me, I started getting very wrapped up in like, well, how many people showed up and what impact is this really having? And I also started to focus on the big thing. But now it's like, I'm back in the local level where I'm like, okay, like, hey, let's smash a car. So yeah, I agree with that. It does feel very 360, but I almost feel like a lot of activists kind of go through that kind of like a life path journey.
But I think there is value in all of it, right? And yeah, to your point, when you think about the numbers, you're spot on, because you're thinking, okay, how many volunteers did I got to make sure that all the volunteers are engaged and they've got something to do. And then, of course, when you have an organization, you need funding to keep the organization running and to do the mission. And so you do get very bogged down with those things, and then you start to think, well, what am I really doing here, right? If I'm spending so much time in the weeds of just getting participation, getting numbers, getting funds, then where's the moving of the movement? So I think you hit the nail on the head. And sometimes being there and doing something locally, or just connecting, or or smashing something that needs to be smashed in that moment can be, there's value in that too, and in that whole journey.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, usually people don't ask when I'm chatting and interviewing, people don't ask me.
Oh, I know, I
So
got you off guard.
I was like, oh, you're asking me a question.
Yep, threw a little curveball at you.
So you did. Yeah. I'm so used to because I'm also a journalist by trade. So I'm like so used to I've got my question sheet and I'm
Yeah.
like doing my thing. And but that was nice. It was nice that to kind of connect in that moment.
Right.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about how you use music in, to kind of wake people up? And because I know you talked about Dirty Girl being that anthem. Did you always feel like music was a good way, a good avenue in, or, how do you kind of use that in activism?
So I've always been singing like since I was a kid. Like I was the kid that like I would be walking down the street singing at the top of my lungs. Like I loved music. Like that was my vibe. But I never thought I was good enough. I never thought like I had like, that special sauce. And so I would sing, but I wouldn't say music was like a focal point of mine until 2021 for real. But how do I say this? I was always interested in the power of pop culture to make politics more alluring. And I think many people are like, I think right now, like we're in an era of politics where politicians have adopted this rock star mentality. There's this journalist, her name is Eve Ani, and she talks about, for example, like I think when Trump was in office, like why he feels like a rock star, like why is he how is he able to like elicit this type of reaction from crowds? And it's because he's not a politician. Like he is a popular figure that has transitioned into politics. But what that does is it creates this dynamic where you have people who are already fans of him, like people who have formed these parasocial relationships already with him. He's like a daily reference in pop culture. Like if you look at shows in the 90s, Donald Trump was mentioned quite often. Like there's even a Beyonce song where Nicki Minaj talks about mentions Trump. And it's like, nobody knew he was going to become this man, but I still have to say that pop culture is really alluring because pop culture is a very democratic arena. Like anybody can enter a conversation about pop culture and form an opinion because that's all it requires you to be able to do. So I've always been interested in the power of pop culture to like specifically engage youth, like young people around politics. But then in 2021 or in 2020, I took a step back from organizing because after the George Floyd protests and the racial justice protests of 2020, I was pissed off because I just felt like Black girls, women, and femmes were like, it was just so clear. Like there was no hiding it. Like we're not being prioritized in movement spaces. So I was like, okay, like I need to take a step back from this because I don't know what y'all are doing and I don't know what I'm doing. So bye. So I took a step back. I had an identity crisis because organizing was my entire identity. So now I'm like, damn, like, what do I do? And who am I? So I kind of just like, I chilled out as well. Like, when you don't know what to do, all you can do is really chill. So I chilled. And I started taking voice lessons in 2021, the beginning of 2021. And they were virtual, but my vocal coach, she was really good about making me feel good. Like she just was really affirming and she made me feel like, no, like you can really sing, girl. Like we just got to fix a few things here and there, but like you're actually really, really good. So in 2021, later that year in the springtime, I visited Texas and I fell in love with the city. And I went back home and I was like, I want to go back to Texas because I want to make a music video and I want to become a superstar. And I will say the part of the story that's missing is, and also the spring of that year, I had applied to this grant, this really big grant that was awarding people in my hometown that had, done work around politics. And I literally poured my heart and soul into application. And they got back to me and they're like, yeah, like we love you, but we know you're not gonna stay local for long. Like we know you, like they literally said to me on the phone, they're like, you're too big for this town. Money's all like playing. But they liked me so much that they were like, okay, like you're not gonna get the full amount, but here's $5,000. Go do whatever you want, live your life. So I was like, okay, I'll move to Texas for 3 months and make a music video. And that's what I did. And since then, it's really been kicking off. And for me, I just realized that like people make music about anything. Like they make music about money, sex, power, respect. And they like when you look at pop culture right now, systems like white supremacy and patriarchy and classism and all this other stuff, they're really alluring because the music makes it alluring. The music makes it captivating. The music is the thing that gets the people going. Like you ever hate a song, but you can't stop singing it because you've been exposed to it so much. That's how powerful music is. And I feel like music is probably like one of the last things we have in this world that can attract and sustain the attention of the average consumer. And so I was like, okay, like if you can make money, if you can make music about money, cars, sex, power, respect, music about liberation. And that's what I did. So I wrote a song. It's called Dirty Girl. You can stream it on SoundCloud.
Oh yeah,
So that's the story.
We'll make sure to put the links and everything. So you'll give us like the SoundCloud links and everything so people can listen to it. But yeah, I mean, I like living in, like I said, the neighborhood that I live, like I've had some education, you know, in certain spaces from people teaching me about music and so forth. And I learned about something called like conscious rap, you know, and things. And to me, it sounds like, just based on what people have shared with me and that I've learned, that a lot of the origins of these types of music came from like people wanting to be liberated, tell their stories, be heard, right? And then fast forward years later and it gets co-opted by the corporate interests, and now it's like selling this product and glorifying this consumer type lifestyle. And so it's gotten away from those roots of being art and liberation.
But you know what though, you saying that just made me think about the sad reality is conscious rap, it be kind of corny sometimes. I'm sorry, like all respect to the people, but like I don't know. I feel like sometimes when people make politically conscious music, they feel like they have to make it so obvious. It's like, it's okay. Like, let's just vibe a little bit. And I think that for me, even as you were mentioning, like, you know, a lot of these genres like rock and roll, even hip hop started off from really radical places. They've been co-opted. I think as you were saying that, it made me realize I think that's what I really like about Dirty Girl and how I'm building it right now, because Dirty Girl has a really radical vision and a really, really radical aim, which is I am using music and pop culture as a way to base build with girls, women, and femmes. So I'm literally just using these mediums just to build a connection with y'all. Like, that's it. And I think what's really cool is I don't think we're like ignoring the commerciality of our landscape. And I don't even think I could. Like literally everywhere you go, you're being sold something. Like you can't escape it. And I think for me, in building this movement and building this organization, it's really important that I am not above it or below it, that I'm kind of just like right in the middle of it. Like I don't think I want to make, I don't think I want to make work that feels ahead of its time. I think I want to make work that feels of its time. Like I'm literally right now experiencing the same thing you're experiencing. And this is how I'm responding to it. And this is how you can respond to it too. And I think, I don't know if that means we're not going to get co-opted. Hey, I don't know. But I think like that's something I think about a lot, is just like, how do I respond to this hyper capitalist society where we are in late stage capitalism. Like I can't escape that. Like there's nothing I can do. And like, it literally does feel like the end times, you know, sometimes. But like, rather than like trying to beautify it or trying to like ignore it, why don't I just talk about it? Like, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't have to be corny about it. I don't have to like over dramatize it, because the real world, the reality itself is already so dramatic. I don't need to do too much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Just the news cycle and everything. You're like, whoo.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's such good points, I think. But you do really have to think about it, because I think, as you said, you're trying to connect with people, but then you're, so you don't want to be so far outside of that, that you're not getting an audience, but then you also don't want to, hopefully fall into the late stage capitalism trap of being too far in there. So when you think about like your future and, the music and the activism and everything, like, what do you think when you're thinking forward or next steps?
Okay. So if I'm being real, not like, what do I see? So I was asked the other day, a similar question. They were like, in 5 years, like, where do you want to see yourself? And I was just like, I want to be able to know that I can go anywhere in the world and have people welcome me. Like, in the sense of like, you can stay at my home, or like, you can seek shelter here. Like, you can, like, I can feed you, I can take care of you. And the reason why is because my vision for Dirty Girl and my vision for myself is I really do see myself being a really big deal, like a really big superstar, a really big voice in politics. Like, I really do see that for myself. And it's because I think, one, I know who I am. Like, I know that I think I definitely went through a stage where I was just like, I was very like, I always downplayed myself. Like you could look at my resume, you could hype me up, like my community could go up for me, and I would be the one kind of like putting myself down and saying like, no, like I'm not who they say I am. I'm not that great, whatever. But if I really look at my track record, like there isn't anything I can't do when I put my mind to it. And that's what really excites me about Dirty Girl, is like, I feel like I finally have all the pieces in place. Like, I feel like I finally know, like, this is what I need to get to that final vision, which really is a movement committed to the liberation of Black girls, women, and femmes, which means across the world, there's going to be girls, women, and femmes engaging in their local politics in a way that is so fierce and that speaks to the urgency of this present moment, which is, we are not safe. We are not okay. And we have to do something about it. And I also say that because I've seen how Dirty Girl makes people feel. There's no way to explain how it feels to finally experience something where you feel like you finally touch freedom. Like, you feel like, whoa, like, this is how it feels like to actually be running the show. Like, this is what it feels like to have my safety and my care and my expression centered. And what people feel like they're able to do afterwards is so monumental. Like, I would say the person that co-organized the Houston rally with me, their name is Koi. They're a Black trans femme. And when I first met them, they were like, I want to be a host. I want to be a makeup artist, and I want my own talk show. And with Dirty Girl, when we had the first festival in Houston, I told them, like, host the show. Like, I want you to host it. Like, you're the only person that can do it. And they hosted the show. And immediately after, they were granted the opportunity to start hosting more parties in Houston. And now they have like a series of parties they hold in Houston. They now have 2 residencies where they're actively curating safe spaces for Black femmes, Black queer folks to gather and party and release. Like, and that is so powerful. And then I have in Spring Valley, New York, we held another rally in October. And my co-organizer, I mean, she was already a powerhouse on her own for real, but like we were on this radio show speaking to a Haitian audience, and now she has a radio show. She was granted the opportunity to have a radio show that now has an audience in Haiti and Spring Valley, New York. And it's to say that, like, I always say, Dirty Girl makes dreams come true, because all that I'm doing as an organization, all that I'm doing as a person is I am giving like, people are telling you what they want and I'm giving it to them. Like, you tell me you want to be a TV host, whatever, like, sure, anything is possible. And I'm just giving them the resources to paint the picture. Because the thing about being a Black girl or just a marginalized person is people won't see it for you until you see it for yourself. They're not going to be able to paint the picture for you because they've never seen something like you before. And I think that what Dirty Girl is doing is Dirty Girl is saying, yes, shit is so bad right now. Like, don't get me wrong, but let me paint you a different picture. Let me show you that this could be different. This is what happens when we gather and we actually value each other. And what's really beautiful is, like, people respond to that because they really want it. And Dirty Girl is not even like, I'm not even saying like you need Dirty Girl. Like, you can experience Dirty Girl and then you can do it yourself. And I think that's the relationship I want people to have to this organization is like, yes, like, you are a part of it. Yes, you align with our values. But at the end of the day, you have full agency over your life. You design the life you want for yourself. Here are the resources. Here's the motivation. Here's the clarity. Now go and do it and leave me alone. So that's the vibe. I think that's the vision for Dirty Girl is like, how do I just keep granting the resources to people to just create what they want to create and do that in a way where we're all moving in the same direction, which is what I mean by movement. Like, I don't want you to do everything I say. I don't want you to be an exact replica of me. I just want to inspire you to move in a similar direction as me. And then after that, like, you do you, I'll do me. But as long as you're moving in the same direction, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So, and it sounds like it is really rooted in this connection between like art and politics and movement. So would you say that's true? A lot of people that you might help or inspire through Dirty Girl, are they kind of looking for an avenue to use their art and also activism, or are there some in the art camp, some in the activism camp?
Yes. But I think most of all, I think they're just looking to feel something. Like, I don't know. I feel like life feels so monotonous right now. Like, right? I don't know.
I hear that. Yes.
Yeah, like, and I think people just want to feel something. Like, because when I think about it, we had our first rally in Houston almost immediately after Roe v. Wade was overturned. So I think Roe v. Wade was overturned. And then I called my friend Coy and I was like, yo, I want to do this. And then 3 weeks later, we had a rally on July 31st. And I remember when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I was so disappointed because I was just like, yo, like, how do we feel right now? Like, how do we actually feel? Because, and it was so weird because this monumental thing happens. Because mind you, something never before happens every day. Like, every day you hear never before. Yeah. It's like, damn, like, okay, every day is a monumental event. But this was really major. And I remember one of the things that really disappointed me the most was people were saying, well, we kind of knew this was going to happen someday. We kind of saw it coming. You saw it coming and you're admitting to that? I'm like, no, I was like, this feels like the losing team and I don't want to be part of it. I don't want to be, because it just felt like, yo, like something monumental just happened. Like, this war is just further intensifying. And I don't really feel connected to any of you right now. And I think like that's why I wanted to hold the rally. That's why I wanted to smash the car, because I was like, I just want to feel something. Like if a tree falls in the forest and you hear it, like you're gonna jump, right? You're gonna be like, whoa, a tree fell. So if Roe v. Wade is overturned, and now we're in Texas, by the way, and you literally like you cannot get an abortion, you cannot have that access to your body, you're not gonna feel nothing. I just couldn't stand for it. So I was like, okay, like we need a solution. We need something fresh and new. And Dirty Girl was literally in my lap, and I was like, okay, it's time. And so that's how it came about. But I think yeah, like we definitely do attract a certain type of audience. Like it's usually the alternative folks, like the people that are a little bit like left of center, or even right of center, whatever. Like they're just on the fringes, you know what I mean? And they feel really pulled to our message and our vibe because it's so free. Like, like you can really do anything with it as long as like, you understand like what the vision is and what the movement is. So yeah, we tend to attract a lot of like young alternative Black kids. And also guys love Dirty Girl. They love Dirty Girl. I'm like, guys, like, this is not for you. But in a way, it really is, because I think when you have Black feminist spaces that are centered on how do I help this person return to their humanity, everybody benefits. Because like when guys come to Dirty Girl events, like they feel free, like they feel like I can let loose, like I can be a human being right now. And yeah, like that's just really special to me. Like I feel really good about that. So yeah.
Yeah. So where can people find Dirty Girl? You mentioned TikTok, you mentioned the SoundCloud. Tell people where they can connect. And
Okay. So Dirty Girl has a very uniform handle. We know God worldwide. So if you go on Instagram, it's at We Know God Worldwide. Our website is weknowgodworldwide.com. But my TikTok though is different because it's my TikTok. So it's She Knows God Worldwide. You see? So yeah, so if you want to keep up with Dirty Girl, that's our information. And if you want to email me directly to talk about anything I said today, it's weknowgodworldwide@gmail.com. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. So people can even email you, and you answer emails. And
yeah, I do. I mean, sometimes it might be
awesome.
me answering, sometimes it might be Dirty Girl.
That's really great. Hopefully you can't, the guy is blowing my I'm hoping that nobody can hear that, but the guy that comes through my courtyard has decided now is the time to use the gas blower.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, good. I'm glad the mic works well, but he's like he's very loud in my ears. Yeah, so this has been really, really interesting, and I've really enjoyed the conversation with you. So are there activists that maybe that are not living, and like, people that you draw inspiration from, and maybe if other young people haven't checked them out, would you recommend that they
Okay. Yeah, and this is for all people, not just the young girls, but yeah, listen up. Let's pull out our notebooks. So I got y'all. So the first people I draw from are really my Haitian ancestors. Like I'm Haitian. I was born in Haiti, and I directly pull from Haiti's revolutionary history, because I always say like every question we have about revolution can be answered by Haiti, period. Like every single question can be answered by Haiti, because Haiti also pulled from past revolutions in order to stage its revolution. And also, I think because Haiti is the first Black republic, there's a lot to learn about what happens when the most marginalized people actually seek liberation, and who comes to kind of like make sure that that doesn't happen. So I always pull from Haiti's revolutionary history. Toni Morrison is a really, really big like Black feminist scholar for me, theorist for me. Like her book, specifically Paradise, was really influential in shaping a lot of my thoughts around Black feminism, or not even shaping my thoughts around Black feminism, but more so painting a picture of what was possible for me. Now, the group that actually helped me understand Black feminism and made it accessible for me was the Combahee River Collective. They are a radical Black feminist group developed in the 1970s on the heels of the Black Panther movement and the Civil Rights movement, because they felt like Black women, girls, and femmes were not being accurately catered to and taken care of in our movement spaces, which I think directly speaks to the work that I'm doing now. So I always look to them. And then I love Edwidge Danticat, who is a Haitian writer. I just love her work because she writes in a very clear way. And I just really empathize with what she's writing, because a lot of what she's writing is a direct reflection of my life. So it makes me feel less alone as a young Haitian woman in that aspect. And I would say that's it. Those are good starting points. Like, feel the vibe and then get back to me.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we link some of those things in the video when the video is out, so people can find those resources.
Yeah.
So when did you came from Haiti? How long have you been here? And could you talk a little bit about and you did sort of touch on the history and background, but for people that aren't familiar, can you talk a little bit about how that really has informed your work and I think your worldview, right? Because it's very different than somebody that's a Black American that has been born and lived here in the US. Can you speak to some of those differences and how you see the world and possibilities and things?
Yeah. So I was born in Haiti in 98, December 4th. I'm a Sagittarius. So, I'm an optimist. Okay. But yeah, so I was born December 4th in Haiti. And my family, we were granted the right to like immigrate to the United States when I was 2 years old. But what I've come to learn is, at the same time that I was maturing and coming into like my toddlerhood, my mom was also growing up as now like a U.S. As an immigrant or as a Haitian citizen living in the United States. So she just didn't feel comfortable raising me as she was going through that transition process. So she actually sent me back to Haiti to live with her to live with her best friend, actually. So her best friend raised me for about 3 years, and I attended school in Haiti. And yeah, like I kind of experienced like that, those pivotal moments in Haiti. And then when I was 5, I immigrated to the United States permanently, and I didn't go back to Haiti for 18 years. And then last year I went on a homecoming trip. I did not tell my mom, and I just kind of vibed out. I surprised my dad, and it was a beautiful event. But from the age of 5 to 22, I didn't go to Haiti. Or 22, no, 23. I didn't go to Haiti. But essentially though, I would say for the first like 10 years, maybe even 15, I didn't really feel connected to my Haitian culture. Like when I would go home, we would speak Creole and we would eat Haitian food and be immersed in that culture. But it was like two different worlds. So it's like in my house, I'm this Haitian girl, and I have to live up to these expectations of like being more demure, being less outspoken, etc. And then when I leave the house, I'm coming into this world where I still am a Black girl, so there are still limitations placed on my body. But also like the world is moving towards like, or at least the United States is moving towards like more autonomy for women, like more women need to be more vocal. And I think naturally I'm a very vocal person, but I think that created a lot of friction growing up, because it was just like, this is who you're supposed to be in the home, and this is who you're supposed to be outside. So, and I also think too, being Haitian wasn't cool until like a few years ago, for real. Like growing up, there was a lot of anti-Haitianism. Like there's anti-Blackness, but then there's also, I feel like there's anti-Haitianism, where because we were the first Black Republic, the first country to free itself of white supremacist slavery, I think there really has been like an active campaign to really like, what's the word I'm looking for? To hinder the way other people view us as a country. And I think also too, some of that has happened naturally because of how our country has been punished post-revolution, for the war that we won, right? Like our country has gone through an immense amount of economic turmoil, because we had to pay France a debt for the value they lost in the slaves that eventually freed themselves. The United States has also occupied Haiti. We've experienced a dictatorship because I think the United States had a really huge influence over the president that was elected at the time, and he ended up being a dictator. And so there's been a lot of pressure on our country. And because of that, people also look to Haiti and they're like, oh, like that's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Like, there's no value in those people. But the truth of the matter is, once I actually started to push past that shame that was being put onto me, I realized like Haiti might be the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, but we have a huge amount of what I call cultural wealth, which is, aside from the economic, from the numbers, like how do we actually make people feel? What are the artifacts that we can actually call upon right now that can illustrate not only what this country currently is, but also what this country historically has been. And so for me, a lot of that cultural wealth lies in our history. It lies in our spirituality. And I call upon that a lot in the work that I do, because I feel like our movement spaces have gotten really obsessed with the physicality, like who's on the front lines and who isn't, which is also really ableist, because some people cannot be on the front lines. Like it actually is just literally impossible. And everybody has their own role to play. And because I know that, I also focus a lot on the spirit of the person, and also the mental of the person, like really looking at people as three-dimensional beings rather than just obsessing over their physicality. And I think Haiti has a wealth of history when it comes to engaging people on that spiritual level. Like even before we engage in the revolution, like we had a gather. My ancestors had a gathering at this place called Bois, which was a voodoo ceremony that brought all the slaves on the island together. And mind you, all these slaves, like they did not speak the same language. They were from all different parts of Africa. And that night, for the first time, they all spoke the same language. They all understood each other, because for the first time, they knew, like, I'm just trying to get free. Like, that's it. Mm-hmm. Like, so if we can come to terms on that, I'm cool. And that's what they did. But it wasn't like that stuff, that's spiritual stuff. Like that's stuff that can't be explained, by like mortal intervention. Like that's really stuff like you really got to believe in something higher than you. And I think that as much as like we critique the right and it's wild. They be doing wild things. But I think what the right has really mastered is they know that things like rituals still matter, right? Like going to church every Sunday still matters, because that's how you form community with people and your community. Like having dinner at the dinner table still matters, because that's how families kind of understand like what's going on in the family. And so they understand the importance of rituals, and they understand that human beings tend to commune better and also have a better relationship with themselves when they kind of can like rely on like a something bigger than themselves, which is why Dirty Girl, like our moniker is We Know God Worldwide, because it's like, I'm not saying God is like this man in the sky. God is whoever you want God to be. But what I'm saying to you is, wherever you are, you know God. You don't have to look outside of yourself. You don't have to find meaning in anything else. You have God within yourself. So wherever you are, God is with you. And I think for me, tying that spiritual piece into Dirty Girl was really crucial, because the thing about liberation is anything physical can be taken from you. Like anything, your body can be taken from you. So you have to know that without any of these physical things, you're still going to be good. You're still going to be a person. You're still going to be you at the end of the day. So I think that's been really important for me to know that this is not all fun and games. Like the stakes are really high, like people really are dying every day for real, like of things that they don't need to be dying from because of systems of oppression, because of white supremacy. And I need to know that anything physical can be taken. So at the end of the day, when I study Haitian history, what it teaches me is, because anything physical can be taken from you, because you can win a war and still have your country go through economic, political, and spiritual warfare, you need to be comfortable with having nothing at all, because it can all be taken. But the only thing that will remain is you and the spirit. And it's my job to make sure that my spirit is pure at the end of the day, that like I can sit with myself and actually enjoy my company, because when I don't have nothing, that's all I have. So I hope that answers the question of how like Haiti has informed a lot of my worldview. Yeah.
You're like very wise beyond your years. I feel like I mean, I also feel like since you've been in the activist space, like it's been a fast growth. I feel like, because I think like we talked about activists going through that life cycle, right? And sometimes it can take a while, but it seems like you have kind of gone through several different stages and learned a lot, and got to that next level, I guess, of whether it's self-awareness or world awareness or whatever it is, pretty quickly. And it's very impressive to hear you tie everything together, from your background to where you are, to music, to what's going on in the world now. I have to say it's very impressive.
You know what it was, Rena? I think like being a Black girl in movement spaces, I didn't really have a choice. Like I feel like for the past, like since 2020, like since I took a step back from organizing, I've just been sitting back and just realizing like I went through a lot of hardship that I had no business going through as a 14-year-old, as a 16-year-old. Like I really did. Like I was like 20 years old being told that full-blown adults were scared of me. Like, you know what I mean? Like those are the environments that I was in. And so I don't know, like I really didn't have a choice of when are you going to make sense of all of this? Because it was either like I was going to continue feeling anguish every single day, or I was going to find peace within myself. And I had to choose the latter if I wanted to like live a good life. So yeah, like I think when you put it in perspective like that, it really has been fast. But I didn't have a choice. And I think that like I also keep that in mind a lot about how young people are really being tasked with changing the world. And it's like, we're just young people. Like, we just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun. Like, so I think about that a lot. And I think about how crucial it is that we preserve our youth. And we actually get to be children, because sooner or later, like that time is gone. And all you have left is like the remnants of that. And for me, I had to sift through a lot of like sadness. Like I was deeply sad, but it was because like for the longest time, I wasn't being taken care of. And I would say that's a huge inspiration for me, is like remembering how deeply uncared for I felt. And now it's like, okay, like I need to make sure that I make people feel cared for. and that I'm actually infusing care into everything I do because I want people to feel good. That's the basis of it. Like everybody wants to feel good. And if I have the power to do that, why not? Like that's just how I see it. So, but thank you though. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I often think about, because when we were working, there were high school students, coming in, and then there were people of all different ages, and you do kind of think about it. And when you've gone through like a longer activism life cycle, I guess, than a lot of young people, and especially young people that have been disenfranchised, go through, I think you end up having a lot of people that give up or they get tired, by the time that they're older, and then it becomes, the young people will take care of it, and which is not necessarily the right move either. Like you have to be supporting the young people, and like you said, making people feel cared for, and finding whatever life stage you're in, trying to find that role in uplifting and these movements. So none of it is an easy task.
None of it.
Really,
but I think we really have to be serious about getting past that and actually like talking to each other again. And because people are really lonely. Like, so I think I've become more conversational as I've gotten older. Because I used to be a Grinch. I hated small talk. I hated talking to people. Like, I was like, oh, don't talk to me. But now I've gotten better. And I find that people are so taken aback when I just ask them how they're doing, which tells me that this is such a rare occurrence that by me showing you just an ounce of human compassion, it makes you feel so special. Now, that sounds really nice, but that's also really dangerous, because now imagine you're sitting at your laptop or you're sitting on your phone and you're feeling really lonely. And all of a sudden you see this video that's like, oh, hey, you want to know why that girl doesn't like you? And you're a young man and you're on your phone and you're like, why doesn't she like me? Because women are evil. Oh, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Let me keep on scrolling. Like, let me keep on engaging with this video. And yeah, like that's actually what's happening. Like people are lonely, and they're going on their phones and they're finding community or a false sense of community. And then they're being funneled into like this pipeline that's turning young men into really violent misogynists. Like this is what's happening. And I've actually seen this. Like there was this one guy I was dating and he seemed normal at first. And then he started talking like really strange things, like really like conspiracy level things. And like I can judge him and be like, oh, that's so weird. But like I have to recognize like this is bigger than him. Like this is a systemic pattern we're seeing play out across the United States. And I think what was so compelling about him as I was experiencing him was like he wasn't always like this. And he didn't come from a family that believed in any of the things that he believed in. He got it all from his phone and from watching YouTube videos, from watching Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate and all these people. And he has been successfully funneled into this pipeline where now he was spewing misogynist things and not even realizing they're misogynist. And I think that's what I keep thinking about is like the stakes are really high. And like, I really have to do a better job of actually talking to people and connecting with them. Because if not, like there's definitely other people waiting to snatch them up and to bring them onto a wholly different worldview and ideology.
Yeah, a lot of these, and I've read a lot of these stories, and I think you're right. It doesn't come from the family of origin. And from hearing that, people are getting funneled into these pipelines because they read or hear one thing, they watch one thing, and then it goes to the next and the next, and they go down that path, which is scary in a way that I think it wasn't, before. Which I think a lot of the responsibility also lies in these algorithms that are, because they don't have to be built that way to funnel you down all of these pathways.
They don't have to be, but why wouldn't they be? Like, and this goes
Yeah.
back to what I was saying earlier about the internet is the internet. That's what it is. And I say that meaning like, if you look at how the internet is designed, you have probably like 3 tech companies that have a monopoly on the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are run by white men. Or even if they're not run by white men, the values of those companies have not even changed. So even if they're no longer run by white men, those values are still infused in the company. So and not only that, not only about the identity portion, but white supremacy makes a lot of money. Like it's a very alluring economy. Like, because it doesn't require that you're changing anything. You're just continuing to feed the machine. And so it's like, why wouldn't I design this algorithm to drive you further into this rabbit hole when all that means for me, my bottom line is I'm just gonna get more ad money. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Like it's easy. It's easier than designing something totally different than you. So why would I exert more effort in a capitalist society to do that? And I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes we shouldn't even concern ourselves with like, this should be like this, because it's not like that. And it will probably never be like that for real. So like you have to, like, I feel like we have to get to, sometimes we have to like take a step back and recognize like, okay, this is how it's working. And this is like, they have these are the advantages of continuing it to operate like this. So if this is how it is, what can I do to intervene? Like, what can I do to actually shift or put a stop to how this is running? How can I serve as like, I don't know, like the glitch in the system? I think sometimes that sometimes is the more refreshing way to approach some of these issues, is don't beat at the brick wall, go around it, like for real, because a lot of times like there's no getting through it. Like you kind of have you have to figure out, actually there's no, how do I say, sometimes you can go through it, but sometimes you have to go around it, sometimes you have to go over it, sometimes you have to go against it. And so you have to figure out what is that unique solution to this unique issue. So yeah, that's my thought.
That's such a great point, because I do think it can be you can get hung up on the like, well, this shouldn't be like this, and how do we change? And you're right, like sometimes you just can't, because that's the way it's been built, and the system is so old and it's been built like this for so long that like coming up with ways to be a glitch in the system, or to to subvert it in other ways. I think that probably gives some hope too, because if you can at least do something, if you can't tear down the whole thing, that's worth something.
But
You've given me a lot of hope.
Sorry, go ahead.
You've given me a lot of hope. I mean, I follow the news cycle, of course, all the time, and you're just like, oh, it just gets worse and worse, right? Yeah. But we don't tell stories like, and of course that's intentional, it's never going to be on mainstream, but hopeful stories of people connecting, people thinking of different ways to do things.
Yes. I saw this tweet by this woman, her name is Derica Purnell, and she was just like, don't you ever get tired of hearing how fascism is taking over the United States? Like, don't you ever get tired of like only hearing back to back, oh, like critical race theory taken out of this school, critical race theory taken out of here. Like, don't you ever get tired of that? And she was like, I want to hear the stories of resistance of people who are, erecting freedom schools, and students that are rebelling and staging sit-ins because they can't not allow for this to happen anymore. But I think where we are right now as a culture is like, we think this issue is so deeply entrenched, this issue is so longstanding that I can't do anything about it. And that is intentional. Like you said, we don't hear these stories often. I wonder why. Because when you also have journalism now that is also run by a monopoly of certain media companies, I'm going to directly control the narrative that is being delivered to the average person. So no, I'm not going to tell you about that person running a freedom school. And honestly, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but honestly, I actually think it's maybe a good thing that like some of these acts of resistance aren't being publicized, because in an age where information is so readily available, sometimes the best thing you can do is be a maroon, is be the person that's off in the mountain somewhere, you know, running a farm that nobody knows about, and you're kind of like helping people in your local community. You're feeding them, you're informing them of what they need to do when the end of the world comes. Like I have this, I was in Puerto Rico in January, and I actually met this guy who has a farm. It's you know, I think this like about an acre of land that's been in his family for like 50 plus years, and he's now the new benefactor of it. And he's just running this farm, and he's like, yeah, like we're gonna start having fellowships here where people can come and learn about the land and how to take care of it. And that's really radical, you know, because you know, who is gonna farm the revolution? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what it's making me think about, is like, yes, we do need to hear these stories, but not on TikTok. Like maybe like face to face, you know, like let's talk about it in private, in that way. But yeah, I mean, the world sucks right now, but it doesn't have to suck. And but I think in order for people to know that, they need to experience something new. And I think that's what Dirty Girl is trying to do, is show the girl something new.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important. And I think also, yeah, to your point, if it's something as local in the community, it's yours. It's not going to get co-opted by and twisted by you know, whatever other forces are at play. So there is something really powerful about that too, of things that are face to face. And yeah, even going back to that print, you know, sometimes something that's just doesn't exist on the internet, but maybe there's a handout or a, you know, a zine or something that people are passing around. Who was that? I think I was saying, I think it's Ralph Nader has a, like, now it's like a print, it's a print copy that they're only doing, and they're sending it to people that want this print copy of this publication. And they decided not to put it online because they didn't want, you know, either it to be buried or co-opted or, you know, whatever happened. And so I think that's really interesting too, the swing back to like, let's do this face to face, or let's have a printout instead of having everything online.
Yeah, a lot of activists got really frustrated after 2020, because what happened in 2020 is everybody was following all these activists. Everybody was engaging with our work. Like for the first time, a lot of us were getting thousands of likes on our posts. And I think people thought that was going to last. And so now I've seen a lot of activists, they get frustrated when they're not able to reach, you know, their audience, or they're not able to garner attention on their posts. And it's like, to your point, maybe it's you have to go around the issue. Like maybe don't go through it. Like stop engaging, or stop posting, or like stop expecting something out of this platform, and go around it and actually like give people a zine, actually engage with people firsthand. Because I think for a lot of people, our only distribution tools are TikTok, our Instagram, which is really disempowering, because we don't own any of these things. Like we can't control how many people we reach. And it's like, so if you know you can't control it, and you probably know it's not going to change, like, because how long have people been beating down Instagram's door talking about, I want the regular feedback, and we still haven't gotten it back, you know? So if we know that Instagram has no real benefit to doing that, then why keep beating the horse over the head? Like, go around the issue, build your own thing, and talk to people directly. So yeah, I agree with you. I feel most inspired right now by people that are finding ways to directly connect with people, and new and innovative like methods, because I think that's the future. I think the future is offline, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it almost has to be for our sanity, because humans at our core, we're social creatures. So, you know, it's like, yeah, some of these tools and things they're they're good, you know, online, but to be completely 100% consumed by that, like, and then when you're talking about the metaverse and like some of the things that I've heard about kids, young kids like living in the metaverse, and I'm like, that sounds like a horrifying dystopia to me. Like kids need to go play outside with their friends. Like I feel like no matter what, that shouldn't be lost, that connection between people.
Yeah, and also our safety too, because in a world where information is so readily available, like there comes a time when like they can really track anything, like, and I don't know, like I just find it really sinister that our attention now is for sale. Like that's
Yeah.
really wild. Like our attention is currency. And so it makes me wonder, like, okay, like, will my breath become currency? Like, will my, you know, daily movements become currency? And then it becomes a question of how will people now attach value to that? If let's say, for example, I am more valuable in a society where walking is really valued, right? So let's say like I average like 20,000 steps a day and somebody else averages 1,000 steps a day. Then it becomes a question of, okay, like if that person is not producing enough steps, what happens to that person? And then it becomes a question of, okay, like how are people with disabilities being impacted by this? And who's inherently valued in our society? And again, I think to go back to what you're saying very early on, it's like we come into activism because we're asking all these questions. And I feel like we're stuck in a place now where we're asking questions, but not really staging new solutions. And that's really dangerous because now you just have people talking at each other, but not to each other. And so like what? We're all just gonna sit here oppressed, but talking about how oppressed we are.
Yeah, it does certainly feel that way. And then
Yeah.
even all these different labels, and then the label gets co-opted. We're progressive, and then that gets and I think after everything I've seen and everything I've taught, like I'm like, I don't want to be labeled anything. I just want to do the thing that doesn't harm people and helps and makes the world a better place. And that can be a combination of things. Doesn't have to be my idea. It doesn't like just whatever the thing is, let's do that thing. And it doesn't have to be, maybe it's not something we thought of before. Maybe it's new. Maybe it's a mix of things. And I think they get so bogged down in like these certain labels, or like they learn something new, maybe you read something new, and it's got to be this or bust. And yeah, it's like, can we just all, like you're saying, let's talk it out. Let's figure out what do we need to do to be a thriving society for. And I think you're right, for the people that have been most harmed and most disenfranchised, if you can uplift those people and they're thriving, then the rest will come.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know. I think it's also like, how do we relate to each other? Like, how do we go from being individuals to now being two people that actually fuck with each other and actually like are being affected by the same things and want to do something about it? And I also think too, it doesn't have to be anything big, and it's also not always going to come immediately. Like before I finally arrived to Dirty Girl, I had been working at this for like 10 plus years. Like since I've been an activist since I was 14. I'm 24 now. Like it's been a long ass time, and it's been filled with like failure and sadness and anger and just feeling misunderstood. But like all of that was like me learning more about the people around me, the world that I'm in. Like it was really crucial for me to actually just like chill out and experience life, like to actually like again, I say it's field research, like to actually do that field research, figure out like what's actually happening here. And then now like I actually feel ready. Like I actually don't have any concerns. Like the other day I was like, everything feels so easy right now. But it's because like I feel so certain, because I've just been like going through the cycles of like kind of understanding not only who I am, but who we are. And now it's like, okay, like what am I going to do with that information? And I think I also just feel like a sense of urgency. So there really is no time to be unsure of myself. I kind of just I've had that time. I had the past 10 years, to kind of build up that fortitude. And I still have time, but I think now is just like, I'm so glad I feel grounded in who I am and what I'm doing, because the stakes are really high. I think that's all I can say. Like, the stakes are really, really, really high. And I don't mean to sound doomsday, but I mean, look around you. It's already here.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I live in Los Angeles, and it does feel very dystopian at
Yes.
times. And then especially when you go in my area and you go to city council meetings and you see like how long change takes and how things are blocked and the simple things that you just can't get through, and you're like, why is this going to take 10 years to do this simple thing that will help people like not get, like we're talking about traffic, like people get hit all the time in the road. Can we fix that? Like, because our traffic infrastructure is bad. Well, it's going to take, this, that, and the other. And I mean, like 20 years. And I'm like, yeah, all of it is just, you're right. Everything is so urgent. And then you think about these just simple things, right? That you could implement to make day-to-day life better, and how challenging that is to kind of try to accomplish within a system. And so, yeah, I think you got to keep pushing, but you need some hope
Yeah.
also.
And that hope is going to come from like, like, for example, like I always like talk to my Uber drivers now, and it's not every time that I'm in the back of an Uber, but most of the time now, like, I'll be like, hey, how are you? And that's all they need. Like, they'll start talking. Like, and I think when I do that, I learn a lot about the state of the world right now, what people are going through, what's important to people, what our values are. And it also helps me feel a little bit less lonely, because I be feeling lonely sometimes. Like, honestly, the types of viewpoints I have, looking at me like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, and which is fine, but like, it's lonely, and I think also being a young person that has, at this point, like, I've done a lot of things that a lot of people my age just have not experienced. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's a blessing, but it's also been a very lonely experience in doing that. And so now, like, some days, like, I'm actually really chill. Like, I'm really at peace right now. Like, most days I'm just chilling. But like, sometimes, like, I feel lonely and I need that company. And so it's like, rather than like trying to find that escape online, like, I could really just ask you how you're doing.
I
That's
have
it.
to tell you, it's funny that you say that, because I don't drive. I'm one of the rare people out here that doesn't drive. So when I do have
Hey,
to, like,
that's a different set.
yeah, like, so yeah, when I have to go somewhere that's like you can't take the bus or whatever, like,
Yeah.
I'm always in a Lyft or an Uber, and I, like, one of my favorite things to do is engage, and I will ask people, like, your coming to LA story. I love a good and so it depends, because some people came from another country, some people came from another part of this country, and it does really help you connect on that level. And I've learned so much, and because there are a lot of immigrants here too, you really get a nice sampling of how different people feel about this country, and people that have been here for years and how they feel about it then versus now, and people that have come more recently, and it's so interesting. And yeah, I said I would never get that experience otherwise if I didn't just talk to drivers. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're the first person that said that, that they do that too.
No, people, anyway, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it's just a human thing to do. Like, how are you? And I think also too, the energy matters too. Like, because you could say, how are you, and be really closed off. Like, you just kind of know it's not going to go
Mhm.
nowhere. But I think, like, I guess I don't see it as a job either. I generally am interested. And so I kind of just like it's this openness and this like genuine interest in the other person that I think also allows for that type of connection to occur. Um, yeah, because I think what's also been really weird is like, I've been talking to my friend about this, but I feel like a lot of relationships have been HRified. Like, It's like, there's a certain way you need to say this, and there's a certain way you need to say that. And it's like, okay, like, I didn't know we were robots now. Like, but you can feel that in interactions. Like, people are just very rigid and not very open, I guess, to like the possibility of life, which is really chaos. Like, life is just chaotic. Like, anything can happen at any point in time. And I think it's our job as like humans to kind of just be like open to that and be ready for when it happens. But you can't control it. You can only just be ready. So you don't gotta get ready.
Yeah, you're right with the language shifts. You're right about that. I've seen some of that in writing, and in some of the media spaces that I'm in. Everybody's so carefully curating this language, but then you also realize, well, most people, if they're not in this writing space or even in an activist space, they don't know this language, and they're not going to use the right language. And you can't fault them for not knowing this carefully curated language that, a small group of people maybe spent a long time in a room trying to figure out.
And that's really how it be. Like, for example, white privilege as a term, it took a lot of time for that to be developed. And I forgot her name that developed. Her name is Peggy something. She developed the phrase, but it took a long time for her to come up with that theoretical framework. Like, it wasn't just like, it came up in a day. And then it took an even longer time for that framework to proliferate in pop culture. But it's fascinating. Like, you're right. Like, it really is somebody really thinking very deeply about this term, and then the life cycle of it developing. But to be honest though, Rena, I can't really blame people for being so rigid, because I also think people are just scared. Like, we do live in a culture where if you do say the wrong thing, you're out of here. You're done for. Like, and don't get me wrong, for some people, their time has been up. It's time for you to kick the curb. But for other people, it's like, just got here. Like, maybe we can work things out a little bit. I don't know. But I think people are generally very scared of being ousted from community. Because if you're like, think about it, if you're already feeling very lonely and now you're just ousted from community, wow, like, what is there to even live for? Like, for real. And I think a long time ago, maybe not a long time ago, a couple of years ago, I was with a friend of mine, an indigenous activist, and she told me this story that that was really compelling for me. I don't want to say too much about it because I want to respect the privacy of her culture. But she was basically just telling me about like what happens when we oust people from community. If you think about the first colonizers that came to the United States as it's known today, we learn about the pilgrims, right? Like, we learn about these religious refugees that were coming from Europe and seeking refuge somewhere else. And she was just like, but think about it. They were kicked out of their community. And so when you kick somebody out of a community, when you oust them and you say you are no longer welcome here, think about how you're making that person feel. And those emotions are fermenting. Like, you probably made them angry. You probably made them vengeful. You probably made them incredibly sad. And so now they're going to take that out on somebody else. So now when they arrive to the United States, or quote unquote the United States, they're not going to have good vibes. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to try to connect with the indigenous people on the land. Like, they're going to try to take it over because they have nothing else. And I'm not trying to humanize what they did. Or actually, maybe I am. I don't know. But I'm not trying to like belittle what they did either. But I think it's just recognizing, like, when you really break down issues of the most basic human level, a lot of times things happen because people did not feel good. Like, hurt people do hurt people. You know what I mean? And it's like, when you oust somebody from a community, think about what that really means. Like, you are cutting their lifeline to being social. And if humans are social creatures and you're taking that lifeline away, what do I have to live for? Why not just be incredibly violent? What do I have to lose? Nothing. So I think that's how I think about it now. Is like, what really happens when we kick somebody out of a community.
That is such a good way to think about that. Yeah, a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, it really changed me.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's deep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, because you don't think about those, because when you hear the real story, you're like, why did that happen the way it, why not just build community, or coexist peacefully with people that were already in this space? So that is a really interesting way of thinking about it. Yeah. And yeah, I had a friend that was asking me, that said the other day, oh, everybody has something that they'll be canceled for. It's like, what's the thing? And I'm like, yeah, at this point, it is probably true. You never know. What is that one opinion or that one thing that you're going to say that you're going to get canceled for? And that's not a great space to be in either. It's like, let's teach, let's try to connect, let's try to correct where we can, instead of just canceling.
And you know what, too, though? I think what's really scary is, I think we know it as canceling through pop culture, but when I really think about it, I feel like it's a microcosm of fascism. And I call it micro-fascism, which is because we're experiencing fascism on the systemic level, which is, you really which is like your movements and your actions are being controlled, whether you know it or not. It then begins to seep into your personal relationships, where now, if you do not fit into this perfect micro niche that I have developed, then you can be ousted. And it makes sense, because there are so many micro niches to be a part of. Like, how many times has someone been canceled and then they just reemerge as something else? It happens all the time. But it's because they have options. Like, they can do that. Like, they can jump from one community and then cause harm in another community. And I think what we're seeing is this new way of relating to each other, where everything is disposable, because that's how we're treated on a systemic level. So if I'm treated like that and that's okay, then why wouldn't it be okay to do the same to you in our personal relationship? And I think that, of course, it has its disastrous effects, but that's kind of the land of the law now. And we see it from the most extreme things to the smallest things. But it's happening. Even with voting, if if you're not voting, don't talk to me. I can't fuck with you politically, because what are you doing? And if you are voting, get away from me. What are you doing? I can't fuck with you. Meanwhile, the right, they voted. They're building power. But it's so complex. And there's so much that goes into it, because we could also talk about how our lack of rituals also allows things to be more disposable. But this is our environment right now. It's scary times. It's scary times.
Yeah. It is one of my favorite campaigns that I've worked on with a group of volunteers getting out money out of politics, as we did a vote and campaign, and we were like, okay, you voted, but also, what is this other thing that you're gonna do? And and I feel like it has to be okay, do this, and it's not either or only this, or let's find just all other ways to do things and contribute. And that was a really rewarding part of that activism and connecting with so many volunteers and of all different backgrounds, and them coming up with fantastic ideas. But I didn't see anybody else put something out like that, but we were like, okay, vote, and then you're not done. Pick something else, and it could be anything, whatever issue you care about. It can be hyper local, it can be national, international, whatever it is. Just pick something else and stay engaged. And if you care about these things, don't just leave it at the ballot box.
Don't just leave it at the ballot box. And also don't also dispose of people who don't go to that. Like, because I
Yeah.
like, it's just, you see what I mean? Like, it's like everything now has become this identifier. And if you do not carry this label, you are not allowed. And I don't just want to say to the left is the only person, is the only, place in the political sphere that this is happening. It also happens on the right, and it happens quite violently too. But it's like, we're supposed to be creating new alternatives. Like, we're supposed to be creating new ways of being. Why are we just replicating the wheel? Like, what's going on? Where is the innovation? Where's the newness? Where's the hope? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. How this has been, we're coming up at the 2-hour mark. So I'm gonna, out of respect for your time, I'm gonna do our little wrap up here. And then we'll do one more. So everybody, please hit the like button, subscribe, Human Happy Hour. Also, we have a Patreon. So, help us to keep doing these interviews, connecting with people. And then Melissa, tell everybody once again your handles and where they can follow you.
So it's We Know God Worldwide. Very simple. It's an affirmation too. So when you say it, it's like, wow, I do know that worldwide. So we know God worldwide.com, at We Know God Worldwide on Instagram, youtube.com / at We Know God Worldwide. And I think that's it. If you're ever looking for Dirty Girl, you can always find it when you type in We Know God Worldwide. Yeah.
All right. And then there's one question that Jason asks every guest. It's a hypothetical scenario. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you the question and we'll see how you answer. So you're sitting here, in your room or at your desk, wherever you are, just kind of doing whatever you're doing day to day. And all of a sudden somebody comes in, enters the room, and they look exactly like you, except maybe they're like kind of disheveled. They might look older. They look like they've been through something, right? But you know that it's you, and they say, "Come with me." Do you go? What do you do?
Knowing me, I would go. I would absolutely go, but I would have a couple questions first. Like, first, why do you look like that? Like, that's not the vibe. Like, and also, like, who are you? Like, are you me? Like, I would have questions, but I would ultimately go, because I'm the type of person where I need to experience the thing to know about the thing. Like, I don't want to just hear about it. I want to be in the middle of it.
All right. So you would maybe, ask a couple questions, but then you would
absolutely go. I would go. Yeah.
All right, Jason, you want to?
Wait, Rena, can I add one more thing? I completely forgot about this. Okay. What I wanted to say was, if you're sitting at home and you're like, whoa, like, how can I support Dirty Girl? I like them. Okay, I got you. So Dirty Girl is actually going to be embarking on a 10-city tour starting in the summer. It's going to be a dirty summer. And I'm really just going to be going across the country, building power with girls, women, and femmes in their local communities. So far, we've had rallies in Houston, Texas, and in Spring Valley, New York, which is my hometown. And now I want to take that on the road and scale it a little bit more and just meet people and base build a lot more. So if you are interested in either helping to fund that, or to volunteer, or to even donate like in-kind items, please email me at weknowgodworldwide@gmail.com. It's going to be an amazing time. I can just feel it. And I would love for you to join us, because we are growing fast. So I would hate for you to get left behind. So yeah, come get dirty with Dirty Girl. And send me an email if you're interested. Thank you.